Greetings, good people. Welcome to another edition of Leaders and Learners South Bay, where we have the best people in the South Bay to talk to. And today we get to chat with one of our mayoral candidates. We are having an election here in March. We have been letting you guys know. We try to keep you informed about the issues and the people that are here to help solve some of these problems. And today we have another candidate. Paul, you want to tell us about her?
We have one of the two women running for mayor. She's a resident of District 1, and she's been a long time, a rather vocal resident of what goes on in Redondo Beach. So let's welcome Joan Irvine, candidate for mayor in Redondo Beach.
Hey, Joan.
Hi, how y'all doing?
Good.
Super excited to have you here. Thank you for taking the time.
Oh, I appreciate being on your show because you're having all the candidates so that you're helping educate people about us and so they can determine what's right for Redondo.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we're going to try our best to get everybody we want on here and get the word out. So thanks for being on. I do appreciate it. So let's get into it. And our first question we ask, I always ask every candidate this is, why are you running?
Oh, that is a good question. It's kind of long. I'll try to shorten it up for you. I've been watching everything going on for the last 8 to 10 years and just seeing Redondo's economy go down, see the division that's going on in Redondo. And it really breaks my heart because we have such a good city. But what really made me decide to run, because I was not thinking of running at all, is first of all, besides everything else, the way that Jim Light was appointed. When Mayor Brand died, they knew that they were going to have to appoint somebody. When Jeff Ginsburg stepped down, there was a process in District 1, and there was a process that people could apply. You had to get endorsements. You had to be interviewed by the city council. So there was a whole process. But what happened is that the second city council meeting after Mayor Brand died, people were just throwing their names out. And I threw mine out. Everybody else was. But what happened is that Jim Light got up there, said that Bill Brand on his deathbed told him that he wanted him to replace him and finish his mission. There was no democratic process. And so they just let Jim go on and on. They voted him in 3-2. And then they swore him in that night. Yeah. I was just shocked because there's processes that I realized there was supposedly nothing in the municipal code about this, but we should have some kind of process for electing a mayor, sure, or appointing a mayor, and it's not there.
Yes, there wasn't a lot of public discourse on that. I think that same night they spoke about leaf blowers for a longer time than they spoke about who was going to become the next mayor. So I understand that, but that was that like the straw that broke the camel's back, or was it just
that was kind of the next to last straw that broke the camel's back. Then at one meeting when they were talking about cannabis, which has been an issue that's been to the city council multiple times for 7 years, is at the end of that meeting, Niels Nierenheim put up on the screen about a lawsuit going on in Montebello against one of our fellow residents. It had nothing to do with anything around Redondo. All it was to embarrass that resident or to degrade that resident. And that resident happens to be somebody who was a friend. And I could not believe. I just went. A couple city council people called that person afterwards and apologized. He could sue if he wanted to, but that was coming from a city council person and from the Diaz. And I said, we cannot have people who continue to attack people from the Diaz. To me is not.
For people that don't know, Niels Nierenheim is another candidate for mayor in Redondo Beach.
Correct.
So those things were upsetting to you, and they're kind of what you're against. So let's talk about what you're for.
Okay, first of all, I am for a friendlier, happier, kinder Redondo. And we, as we both know, we've had the no growth, the slow, the moderate growth. We've had all these different things, and it's been so contentious that we've really divided into two camps, and that has really interfered, with Redondo going forward. And even with myself, as soon as I announced my candidacy, all of a sudden, all these blogs were posts from on Facebook were coming out and saying I was too old to be running, that it just went into things that had nothing to do with the mayoral race. And for them to put that I was too old, that I was almost an octogenarian. Well, yes, I am. I'm 76 years old. But guess what? No, I am breaking the age code as many other seniors are doing. So that was another thing. I mean, why attack me for something like that? I mean, they even drilled down and said, you're on a dating site. Well, what does that have to do with my running for mayor? So, and those kind of blogs and posts were going on against me. They're going on against other people. And I just find that very disheartening and not the Redondo way. So what I've done is I've asked the people who support me, I said, do not waste your time and and dishonor the people in Redondo, but by putting out these parodies, by, criticizing people. If you're going to put out information, please put out facts and data and no innuendos. And I think that is just so important during this mayoral race and to get us back to a kinder, gentler, nicer Redondo.
Joan, let me ask you, Redondo Beach has historically been hesitant about embracing cannabis in the cannabis industry. What specific policies would you push to integrate cannabis into this local economy? And how do you respond to the critics who argue that it would increase crime or negatively impact the property value here? What are your thoughts?
Okay, can I say from the data that I have read over the years, first of all, if a cannabis dispensary goes into a neighborhood, and it's the correct neighborhood. I mean, it's about where the zoning is, that actually it's so secure. I mean, there's no other type of store that has the security that a cannabis dispensary is required to have. So it's so secure. And they have the cameras that go, to security. They have people around there. So what they have found, at least from some studies, is that it actually increases the value of the homes around there or the neighborhoods around there. And also, I mean, I'm, as an advocate, I am for cannabis dispensaries. As a mayor, my job is to do the will of the people. So I'm going to be talking to you about as an advocate. Also, these people, the companies who are coming in to apply for a cannabis dispensary, they can be spending approximately $200,000 between the application fees and the lawyers and the accountants, et cetera, and just for a chance to have one of the two licenses. With that, there's probably going to be, I'd say, 10 or 12 companies that are going to be applying. Then whoever wins the license, they're going to be spending $1 million or $2 million to put in a dispensary. Do you think that they are going to, I mean, from a business perspective, would you risk $1 million or $2 million by getting a license and not doing it correctly? So I think the thing is, we're going to have people coming in, they're going to have the money to spend, they're going to do it correctly. It's going to look nice. I always say that there is a great store out in Palm Desert on El Paseo, which is like the Rodeo Drive of Palm Desert, and it's called The Leaf. You would not even know it was a cannabis dispensary. It looks like a high-end lounge. The person at the door, which is a security person, has collared polo shirts, khakis. You're welcomed in. It's just a beautiful environment, and you would never know it was a cannabis store. So people are saying, "Oh my God, people are going to see this, and it's going to look like this tacky cannabis store, like what they expect, what they got used to with the smoke shops or the illegal shops." It won't be like that at all.
And so, Joan, speaking as a candidate for mayor, how would you explain to a resident the zoning requirements for a dispensary? And now you mentioned that there's only going to be two, and I do believe there's one in North Redondo and one in South Redondo, but I know there was a lot of other requirements for where that dispensary could be.
Well, you're talking about that there's requirements of how far it can be from a school or a daycare center or anything where there's going to be a lot of children. So that's one of the requirements. requirements. And then they were taking a look at what neighborhoods would that work with, because one of the things about Redondo, we may be a beach community, but we're really an urban beach community. So even with Riviera Village, where some of it is zoned, is that you're going to have homes just about a block away, and so they had to address that. It made it a little unique compared to some other cities. But you also didn't want it to be just, if you push it away kind of in a commercial area, that's when you're going to have issues. So it should be something that is easy access for people, that it's an area that's nice, that's well lit. And so when you're doing that, then it's going to be a store that can get integrated into the community.
Okay. All right.
Well, let me ask you this. If elected mayor, though, how would you balance kind of the needs of the cannabis industry and some of these newer trends with concerns from parents, law enforcement, and others in our community that oppose it? Like, do you believe that Redondo should follow a path of places like, I don't know, like West Hollywood, where they embrace like cannabis lounges and tourism? There's been some new legislation that are now allowing for cannabis cafes. Like, how far could we go in order to benefit fiscally as a city, as a community, but also and make it worth their while? Like, these companies are going to come in, they're paying a lot of money, they're going to want to make sure that it's worth their while. But where's the balance at in your mind?
The thing is, okay, first of all, that's not even, having lounges is not even in the ordinances. All the ordinances are for 2 cannabis dispensaries, and those dispensaries can also do delivery. So the lounges are not, that would be way down the road. Listen, it's taken us 7 years to get to this point. It's going to take us a lot longer, if ever, to get to that point. And that's not a necessity for a cannabis dispensary to be successful. And we're not West Hollywood. We don't have, it's not like we're in Hermosa Beach where it's Pier Avenue, where you have all the tourists coming and all that. Our areas like Riviera Village is just a much quieter area. We have people coming in, but it's not like, Manhattan Beach or Hermosa Beach.
Okay, so getting beyond cannabis, I know that revenue has become a big hot topic, especially with this election. And let people know that Redondo's revenues have grown, but our costs have outpaced them. And also, as far as a beach city goes, our revenues lag far behind everybody else around us. So what are your ideas or visions for maybe increasing revenue in the city?
Well, I think, first of all, we have to be more inviting to businesses coming in. We've been in a climate or an environment where we have not been friendly to businesses. And what you were saying is, I read the same article that I think in the last 10 years, our Redondo's revenue from businesses has only increased like 5% over the last 10 years, while in our neighboring cities, it's increased 25, 30, or I think, if I remember correctly, in Torrance, it's a lot more. But then they also had a tax increase. So, I mean, the fact that our neighbors could be increasing that much and we didn't increase, and then we wonder why we don't have money for our infrastructure. I mean, we have an old infrastructure that's starting to fall apart. If we had, and you don't always want to go back, but if we had some kind of continued development down in the waterfront, we did have a company that was willing to spend $400 million in our waterfront. That would have brought in lots of revenue and lots of jobs, and it would have brought in people to come to the waterfront area that aren't coming there now because it's, who wants to go to the waterfront area? There's just not that much to do, and it's just not as inviting. So I think we really need to take a look at what are the businesses that we want to come into our town, and how can we develop those businesses? I mean, it's like everybody talks about South Redondo. Well, we have the pier, and that's what we've been talking about. We have Riviera Village, but then you have Artesia, and Artesia has not had the growth that the other areas have had, and they keep on they consider themselves almost like the stepchild, and
Sure.
that there hasn't been focus on that. So you really have to take a look at what businesses can be brought into the Artesia corridor that would create a neighborhood there, would create a village, and then also would attract people and would have all those people that drive by it, that maybe those people would stop by, and have food there or go shopping there. So I think we really need to take a look at what's going on. And there is a group that is taking a look at what businesses are there, what businesses they think could be going in there that would attract people. They're also taking a look at, we need to increase the FAR, which is the amount of space that people can build on. So you have Artesia. So maybe what the FAR could do is maybe you could put housing or something above what's there, or some way to be able to increase it so it is a way for people to come. Because if you have, I happen to believe, especially in today's world, in mixed use, because we don't have that much land. People are looking, they want to come into Redondo. And if you have mixed use, first of all, the people are not going to have to drive as far. If they can just walk downstairs, and get to their restaurants and their stores, they're not driving. So you don't have the traffic issue. And then also it creates more community, because they're going to get to know, they're going to be right there. So they're going to get to know their neighbors. They're going to get to know their merchants. And that just creates this wonderful community that would be great there.
Joan, I want to ask you, you spend a lot of time, in South Redondo at the Esplanade, and you're keep the Esplanade beautiful. Please tell us a little bit more about that. But I also want to know, how much time do you actually spend in North Redondo, and what do you see other than just bringing in businesses that would improve the community and the quality of life in North Redondo?
Well, can I say, first of all, I did start about almost 13 years ago. I founded Keep the Esplanade Beautiful. And one of the reasons I founded Keep the Esplanade Beautiful was we have this beautiful, it's beautiful. It's where the water is. It's where the beach is. And people were just leaving trash. They were letting their dogs poop there. And it was just turning into an ugly space while you had the ocean there. And everybody, including myself, we complained. We'd be at District 1 meetings and we'd complain and bitch and do that. And finally, after a few years of that, it was like I finally said, hey, we're getting together at 9:00 in the morning on a Saturday morning, and we're complaining about this, but nobody is taking any action. And so either we're going to take action or we don't discuss it anymore. I get to the point that I'm fairly pragmatic. And so what happened is I was informed, somebody said, why don't you start a Facebook group and see what kind of traction you could get? And we're able to get traction using Facebook. We had Keep the Esplanade Beautiful. We were able to get a sponsor to help us. Athens came in as our first sponsor, so that, we had the same mission. They have trash removal. We wanted trash away from there. And it's just grown from there, where people know the first Saturday of the month, first Saturday sweep, at 9:00 in the morning, we meet at Avenue I and the Esplanade, and people spend maybe 45 minutes to an hour, and they're picking up trash. So they feel good about they could contribute back, and it has made the Esplanade more beautiful. And I believe that we can expand this out. In fact, at North Redondo several years ago, they started doing cleanups along the bike path area. So I think this can be expanded. Didn't cost us really anything. We got a sponsor so we could do our logo and our T-shirts. So I think that's one way that we could expand, community involvement in our city. And that's what it takes. As far as the stores up in North Redondo, everybody complains that there's so many massage parlors. So I think, and then there's smoke shops up there. And can I say, as much as believe in dispensaries, I think the smoke shops, they look tacky. You don't know what they're selling. And you have several right on Artesia. So I think, we really need, from a city planning perspective, need to take a look at the mix of the stores that are up there, and what are the stores that the neighbors or people who live up there, what do they want? Where do they want to be going? And I think you really need to start off with that and limit the stores that you don't want. I mean, people talk about the massage parlors. I happen to believe, from a holistic perspective, that massages are wonderful for one's health. But, it's like I hear this complaint, and then I go to the, I think it was a planning commission, and they approved a massage store, in District 2. And I'm kind of going, if you're complaining that we have too many, why are you approving more? So I think we need to reevaluate how we give out licenses in the city. And what they were talking about with the smoke shops is maybe doing a, what's it, a CDC, I think it's a CDC, where there's restrictions
CUP.
on what they can, CUP, I'm sorry, on restrictions on what they can be doing. So it gives us more control over
Sure.
what the store is doing. And it's not legal control. It's, you've agreed to this to run your business. So if you don't run it in that way, then the city can shut you down. So I think it's really important for the neighbors to say, here's what I want.
Joan,
This is for people to know, the CUP is a conditional use permit, and it's basically a contract with the city that will operate this way.
really quick, when I first moved into Redondo, when Bill Brand first became mayor, I went to him and I asked him, what more could we be doing for our youth here in this community, in this city? As an LA County Commissioner, I have to say this over and over. Our numbers for youth addiction is increasing, and it's sickening, and it's saddening. It's saddening. Like it's upsetting, it's disturbing. And I think that it is incumbent upon leadership in these cities to be intentional about what they put in place for our young people. When I went to him, he basically said, kids ain't really my jam. If you decide to do something, let me know, I'll support. I'm looking to find out from you and anyone else running for mayor, what is your vision for our young people in this community, and what would you like to see happen in order to provide them with opportunities to thrive and, have community within their own city and, prevent these numbers from increasing like they are?
Well, can I say first, when I was growing up, and this is a long time ago, that they had at the junior high, they would have teen centers every Friday and Saturday night. And it wasn't about going and doing work. They'd have it wasn't called DJ back then, but they'd have a DJ. They'd have all kinds of the pool tables, the this and that. So there were activities where you could go to, as a teen and be doing something, because except for gather alcove now, there's really not that much for youth to be doing. So what are they doing? They're hanging out in the streets. They're, on their e-bikes, which is another topic I'd like to discuss. So you have to be able to provide them with these things to do, because otherwise they're going to get bored. We'd get bored, so they would get bored. So you need to provide them with a place where they and their friends can get together. And then also one of the things that we've done with Keep the Esplanade Beautiful is we've done outreach, and we're going outreach to get the kids involved. So to get the kids involved so that they can be learning about the environment, learning about what they can be doing, and then they can feel good about themselves. I mean, people, when you go clean up trash on the Esplanade, people always stop and say thank you. I mean, where else do you get immediate gratification like that for the work that you're doing? So that to be able to provide them with these volunteer opportunities so that they see that this is part of what's being in a community and where they can contribute back.
So let's talk about as you mentioned, e-bikes. What was your position on those, and what do you think about the city's response to it?
Well, can I say my position on those was, first of all, I've been seeing the e-bikes, and these kids are, their parents are spending $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 on these e-bikes. And then the kid, not all of them, but a lot of them are not being trained on the protocol of riding a bike on the road, an electric bike on the road. So you're seeing the kids, and they're doing wheelies. They were having a couple of kids on their bike, which you're not supposed to. They weren't wearing their helmets. And then really what happened to me, and I was concerned, especially in Riviera Village, because they'd pull out of nowhere. And I was so concerned that either I was going to hit one of them, which would just horrify me, or they were going to cause an accident. And there was one time that I was at the Trader Joe's parking lot trying to find a parking spot, and I noticed there was about 6 or 7 of them, and they were blocking the entry by the Starbucks there. And so I finally stopped my car to take a picture because I wanted to let the police know about this. And one of them came at me as if he was going to hit me. And I'm going, excuse me, I'm your grandmother's age. And how dare you think that you're going to intimidate me with your e-bike? And that at the same time, there were other people and prominent people in our city who were being harassed by these e-bikers. It came to a head. There was lots of news media on the local TV stations. And what happened, which I think was very good, is that they started requiring, the police and schools started requiring, in order to have your e-bikes on campus, you have to show that you've taken a class. Very important. When I was going to school, you took driver's ed, and you could get your license a year earlier if you took driver's ed. And so I think you really need to have that type of training, and parents need to be involved in it too, because if you're just giving your kid a bike and saying, go for it, you're part of the problem. And, parents have to get in there. And what I would love to see is, I would love to see that the child and the parent would have to go take a class together. And before a child, and give them some kind of permit, give them something that shows they've taken the class, their parents are aware of it, and then it's going to be safer for everybody.
Sure. You're running, one of 2 women that are running for mayor. I can't recall since maybe Ellen Allen, which was about 15, 20 years ago. She was the only candidate for mayor I can recall in my lifetime. I remember we had Marilyn White, but I believe she was a councilwoman, and she was appointed, and then she was reelected, I believe. So what do you think about the change that we might see? I mean, honestly, we've had a ton of male mayors, and most of them come from South Redondo. So what do you think about the change that if you would bring if you're elected?
Okay. First of all, we've only had 2 or 3 based on, if you take a look at that one, female mayors in the 100 and almost 33-year history of Redondo Beach.
Wow.
And we're close to 50% of the population. So I really do believe it's time for a female mayor. I think with a female mayor that we're in general more concerned about the people. We're there, and it's just in our nature to want to gather people together, to have them work together better, and to deal with the emotional aspects of a lot of this. And I don't see that happening as much when you have an all-male, city council. And also, I think it would help with some of the sexism that's going on. I mean, there was just recently the person who is running for city attorney on a group on Facebook. He put in there our District 3 City Council person page. She put together a group of people. They were going and helping people, probably older people who couldn't keep up their lawns and all that. So she gathered people to go help community service. And he put on there, took a picture, and he's an attorney, and he said, well, she's putting the group at liability. Do they have insurance? She's putting the homeowner at liability. And then he said, which I could not believe in this time time, that he said, but what would you expect from a stay-at-home mom city council person? As if that was bad. I mean, I just couldn't believe it that somebody would say something like that. So we need to get away from
Oh,
That kind of
Joan, you
sex.
should believe it. You know, this kind of stuff has been said on our council so many times. We look at the
Oh,
stuff that's been said to Laura. We look at the stuff that's been said to even Paige and Miss Martha Barbie. Like, come on,
oh,
this is some regular behavior in Redondo. And I guess I would follow that up with saying, knowing that that is regular behavior, and many people actually started to come out and support and watch more city council meetings because of how Laura MD and others were being treated. What are you prepared to do or deal with uh, in order to be involved with this council? Because clearly it's something that just comes with the territory.
okay. Well, first of all, being a little older, I have a lot of life experiences. I've also had a lot of business experience. I've facilitated groups of people, of high level people, that we develop policies and procedures for the top level domains, for the internet, for the core of the internet. We've developed policies. And I think the thing is just, you don't allow it. I'm sorry, if somebody pulls off that kind of stuff, you stop it. You're a facilitator. It's your responsibility to stop that kind of behavior. And I think if we get back to what a city council is supposed to be doing, get back to the rules and the regulations and follow them, that will then it will start to go away a little bit at a time. But you just can't let it go on. You have to call it out. And can I say, when I look at it, I just say, this was not running for a political office was not on my bucket list at all. I'm not using, at my age especially, I'm not using it as a stepping stone. And I think if we just get back to the basics, but you make sure that you're doing the basics. You can't just say, we're going to do this. You have to say, stop that. Let's get back to the rule is this, and we don't tolerate that kind of behavior, especially from our city officials.
That's great.
I mean,
Well, anything else, Paul, before we get out of here?
I just said, Joan, why don't you tell everyone that where they can reach you and where they can donate and where you're, get a little more information about your candidacy.
Okay, where you can reach me is you can either go Joan at joanirvineconsulting.com, or you can go to Joan Irvine for Mayor, Joan Irvine #4 mayor.com, and that will direct you to a page on my website. You can find me on Facebook. You can find me on LinkedIn. And really, if you want to know about my background, please take a look at LinkedIn, and you'll be able to see close to my 50-year professional career, so that you can see how my career, what I learned, has really brought me to this point and what I can be bringing to our city. So Joan at joanirvineconsulting.com.
And you'll be part of the League of Women Voters Candidate Forum?
League of Women Voters, Easy Reader. I'm doing one tomorrow night for Streets for All.
Wow.
So I am putting myself out there so people can ask me questions. Good. And they can see who I am. So
great. Sounds great. Well, we appreciate you spending time with us and wish you all the best. Thank you for being here.
Oh, thank you for having me.
Good luck, Joan.
Okay. And vote.
Hey, thanks for showing up to the podcast where we all know that the best leaders are lifetime learners. When you get a sec, take a moment, leave a comment. What did you think about today's episode? And share it with someone that you know could use the gems that were dropped today. Follow and subscribe. You don't want to miss who's coming up next. You never know who could show up here and what they could say. For your professional needs, marketing, PR, communications, and leadership, make sure you follow us on all social media platforms at Sand and Shores, or hit us up at sandandshores.com. Again, thanks so much for showing up. We appreciate you, and we'll see you soon.